Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the types of companies. So still the concept of the types of company is not over. Just we will remind what we studied on last class, and today also we will continue. The companies will be classified on the basis of incorporation and the membership and the members' liabilities and the control and the nationality. So on the basis of these five categories, we can classify the companies. So on first, we have studied on the basis of incorporations or the method of formation of the company. So we can classify it as three types. First one is chartered company. Next one is statutory companies. Third one is association not for profit. So the chartered companies are established by the king or queen of a country. A king or a queen of a country will be provided the privileges of the chartered companies. It is specified all the formations or the legals and all the powers of privileges of the chartered companies will be specified in the charter. So the Companies Act does not apply to these companies. So the companies cannot be started in India also. Next is statutory companies. This type of companies are established by a special act made in a parliament or a state assembly. The constitution of a company is specified in the memorandum of associations. So all the details about these companies will be mentioned or specified in this memorandum of associations. So we will study about the memorandum of associations. And the rules relating to day-to-day management of statutory companies are specified in the articles of association. This is also one of the legal document. So in this document, so all the rules and regulations related to day-to-day management will be mentioned. So the audit of the statutory company is conducted by the Controller and Auditor General of India. For example, LIC, RBI and SBI, IDBI, Railways, everything is also one of the best example for statutory companies. Next, association not for profit. So the association not for profit means some of the trust or some of the sports associations and some of the organizations can able to having the objectives of earning more profit, but that all earned profit must be going to the members. So the association about to be formed as a limited company aims at the promotion of sports, commerce, arts, science, religion, charity or any other useful object. So this type of company prohibits the payment of dividend to its members. So all the profits have to use by promoting its object of the associations. Some of the associations will be started by providing the special services for some of the particular peoples. Okay, next the classification of companies on the basis of membership. So on the basis of membership, we can classify the companies as a two types. First one is private company, next one is public company. So the private limited company is a type of company which is formed with the minimum two shareholders and the directors. So normally all the joint stock company, those who are conducted by the private as the two individual peoples as the two directors is called private companies. Any of the private persons conducted and established in any of the companies, that is called private companies. So for conducting the private company, the two shareholders and the two directors is minimum need. So the minimum requirement with respect to the authorized or paid up capital just 1 crore has been omitted by the Companies Act 2015. So another crucial condition of a private limited company is that it by its articles of associations restrict the right to transfer its shares and also prohibits any invitation to the public to subscribe for any securities of the companies. Sometimes some of the companies will be allowed to issuing the shares and debentures or shares, but sometimes the company must be omitted the prohibits of transferring the shares from one hands to another one of the hands. And the sharing, issuing shares and transferring shares, everything will be mentioned or prescribed in these articles of associations. So the maximum of 200 persons can become a shareholders in a private company. The name of private company should be suffixed with private limited or the P limited. P means the private. The P is mentioned as a private companies. So X Scientific Publishing Services Private Limited or so many of the companies are there for the example. A private limited company can be formed in three variations. First one is as a private limited company. Next as a small private limited company. Next as a one-off persons company. So we will study about later and as a one-off persons company, OPC companies. Next, public company. So public company means a company which is not a private company. A public company may be said to be an association which consists of at least 7 members. It has a minimum paid up capital of just 5 lakhs or such higher paid up capital as may be prescribed. If the higher paid amount is prescribed, so we can maintain. Otherwise, the minimum paid up capital 5 lakhs is need. And for starting the public companies, at least 7 members are needed. It is a subsidiary of a company which is not a private company. Subsidiary of a company means suppose any of the government can make the companies to providing the extracurriculars, extra facilities, and it does not restrict the right to transfer its shares. So the public company shares can be able to purchase by every persons, even the poor peoples. The public company does not prohibit an invitation to subscribe for any shares and debentures of the company. And the public company also does not prohibit any invitation or acceptance of deposit. So the name of public company should be suffixed with limited or X National Aluminum Company Limited, something like that. Next, classification of company on the basis of liability. So we have studied, some of the liabilities always will be there among the company members or the shareholders. So on the basis of holding liabilities, we can classify the companies. First, a company limited by shares. Company limited by shares. A company limited by shares is a company in which the liability of its members is limited by its memorandum to the amount unpaid on the shares respectively held by them. Suppose when we have the shares on any companies, we have some liabilities for the shares were not paid up. When we are purchasing any of the shares from any of the companies, we have to pay. But if any case, if you are not paid up for the shares, we have some liabilities for the shares for not paid up only. The companies limited by shares may be either public companies or the private companies. If a member has paid the full amount of shares, then his liability shall be nil. Sometimes all the shareholders will paid quickly or within some particular times. Suppose if they paid up for all the amount for all the shares, he has no liabilities. But the two main features of a company limited by shares are as follows. So the liability of its member is limited to the amount, if it is any, remaining unpaid on the shares held by them. So those who members or those who shareholders are not having the shares by holding up. Sorry, if any of the shareholders having the unpaid shares, if he has the unpaid shares only, he has some of the liabilities. Otherwise, if he has paid for all the shares held by him, he has no liabilities. Next, such liability can be enforced either during the lifetime of the company or during the winding up of the companies. So the liabilities will have the expiry date. Expiry date means in local word we will see some expiry date, but when the time of winding up, some shareholders or members have some of the liabilities. As some of the companies can be enforced during the lifetime of the companies also, the liabilities will be held by the shareholders. Next, company limited by guarantee. A company limited by guarantee is a company in which the liability of its member is limited by its memorandum to such an amount as the members may respectively undertake to contribute the assets of the company in the event of its being wound up only. If any of the shareholders having some of the guarantee to providing the losses when the time of winding up. Such companies are generally formed for the promotion of commerce, arts and science, religion, charity or any other useful object. The companies limited by guarantee may be either private companies or public companies. By having the guarantee on the shares, the companies is considered as a company limited by guarantee. Next, unlimited company. An unlimited company is a company in which the liability of its members is not limited by its memorandum. So in other words, the liability of members is unlimited. There is no limit on the liability of members. The members of such companies may be required to pay companies losses from their personal properties. If any losses arise among these companies, the members must be having the responsibility. So because such companies have separate legal entity, its creditors cannot file a suit against the members directly. Because the memorandum of associations providing the special features to their members. Because of it, so we cannot make the suit on their members directly. So the creditors will have the apply to court for the winding up of the company, and then the liquidator will direct the members to contribute to the assets of company to pay off its liabilities. So must be all the shareholders must be paid up for their liabilities. Next, classification of companies on the basis of control. By having the control, so we can classify the companies as three types. First one is government companies. A public enterprises incorporated under the Indian Companies Act 1956 is called a government company. So the 1956, the Indian Companies Act provided one of the facilities to start the companies. According to this Companies Act 1956, if any of the public enterprises established, that company is called government company. These companies are owned and managed by the central or the state government. The section 717 of the Companies Act 1956 defines government companies as any company in which not less than 15% of the paid up share capital is held by the central government or the state government or partially held by the central and the state government. A subsidiary of a government company shall also be treated as a government company. Sometimes the subsidiary company will be there. Subsidiary company means in relation to any other company. One company will be have all the powers to controlling the other companies called subsidiary company. So these companies are registered as private limited companies, but even though their management and their control vest with the government. So this type of the companies also will be registered on the basis of the private limited companies, but the management and their control also will be held by the government. This is a type of organization where both the government and the private individuals are shareholders. So the private and the government also can have the power, have the possibilities to purchasing the shares. Sometimes these companies are called as a mixed ownership company. Mixed ownership company mean so the private companies also, the private individual also will come to one government company. For example, Steel Authority of India and Indian Oil Corporations, Oil and Natural Gas Corporations, Bharat Heavy Electricals, everything's also one of the example for government companies. Next, holding companies. So as per section 287, subsidiary company or subsidiary in relation to any other company. It means a company in which the holding companies, the controls the composition of the board of directors. Next, exercises or controls more than one of the total share capital either at its own or together with one or more of its subsidiary companies. So when we have the companies and issuing the shares and all the undertakings will be governed by the other companies, it is called holding companies. Next, the classification of companies on the basis of nationalities. So on the basis of the nationalities, we can classify the companies as 4 types. First one is domestic companies. A company which cannot be termed as foreign company under the provisions of the Companies Act should be regarded as a domestic company. Within a boundary of our nations, if any of the company has formed, that is called domestic companies. So all the productions and related to the productions and distributing the commodities, everything will be undertaking within the boundaries of our nations. Next, foreign companies. A foreign company means a company which is incorporated in a country outside India under the law of that countries. Every nations also have some of the special law to undertaking or establishing the companies in another of the nations. So on the basis of having the special law, one nations can able to start the industries in another one nations. So after the establishment of business in India, the following document must be filled with the register of companies within 30 days from the date of establishment. Suppose if you are established any of the companies in another nations, so one established nations must be filed some of the register of companies within 30 days. So what are the data have to register mean? A certified copy of the charter or statutes under which the company is incorporated, or the memorandum and articles of the company translated into English. So the memorandum of associations or articles of associations mean so one of the legal document in which all the undertakings conducted by the companies must be mentioned here. Next, the full address of the registered office of company. So we must submitted all the clear and full address of the registered office of the companies. Next, a list of directors and secretary of the companies. So the types of secretaries and the directors will be there, and we must submitted or mentioned the list of directors and secretary of the companies. Next, the name and address of any person resident of India who is authorized to accept. If any of the persons are being or belonging in India to having the authorized, so we have to mention. On behalf of the company, service of legal process and any notice served on the company only. If any of the notice and informations have to pass to the companies, so on behalf of that company, the address of the residential persons only will be. Next, multinational companies. A multinational company is a huge industrial organizations in which operates in more than one country. So carries out production, marketing and research activities on international scale in those countries. So multinational companies mean if any of the companies is established their branches in a different nations, that is called multinational companies. So these companies must be operates more than one country, and these companies must be carries out the production, marketing and research activities on international scale in those countries wherever these companies established their branches. So in these branches nations, he must carry out the production, marketing and research activities. Next is seeks to maximize profit world over. So throughout the world, this type of companies must be having the object of earning more profit. And a domestic company or a foreign company can be a multinational company. Okay students, today it's enough, because if you have started the next concept we will not get the time. So if you have any doubt, please ask me, and just take these portions as your study portions. Thank you.